hot topic this weekend. Lots of drama going on in the universe of Tesla. That's why I brought my friend Eli of My Tesla Adventure with me to talk about it. What's going on, man? How are you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing pretty good. You know, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I got so fired up about this issue that when I got home at about 2 a.m., first thing I did was set up my camera and start talking.
And I know we talked at 2 o'clock in the morning, right as I was sitting on the parking lot of IHOP trying to have a meal, because it gets our blood boiling, right?
Yeah, and I think both of us on the opposite side of the issue. So I think it's really great we can sit here and discuss this today.
We are, and this is one of the very few examples, unfortunately, where we can agree to disagree and discuss this. But I'm hoping that our audiences are going to get something out of this, because we are on a different spectrum of this particular topic. But why don't you tell my audience what happened so far? Just the facts. And then we'll get into, what we both think about it.
Sure. So kind of the high level, last night, Fred from Electric put out a story headlining Tesla punishes early adopters of their cars. And it was being really critical of Tesla, saying it was unfair for them to now lower the price for one of the upgrades, the performance package upgrades, because people just bought the car a month or two ago and had to pay for that upgrade feature if they wanted it. The claim was that it's devaluing their cars and it was a slap in the face to early adopters. It also started a Twitter exchange between Fred and Elon that looks like it resulted in there's going to be some accommodations being made, but it was quite a night, and a lot of people were coming down really hard on Fred for the way he went about it.
So essentially, Tesla ended up including the package that used to be $5,000, and Fred himself paid $5,000, kind of included it for free. So he felt like, well, wait a second, I just paid $5,000, and so everybody else doesn't have to pay for it. He called Elon out on Twitter, and then Elon actually agreed to refund people the $5,000, or I think he gave them a choice of free supercharging.
It was kind of interesting how that went down, because there was some things Elon said back and forth, and it kind of ended with, we'll make this right. And it seemed to me left kind of to be determined of exactly what that's going to look like. I did see that Elon ultimately did say the refund thing, but we'll see what's going to happen. I'm
under the impression he was basically offering $5,000 back to all everybody. And I think I gave you example, the first thing that came to my mind, right? When I bought one of the first iPhones, like the first 2007 iPhones, yeah. And Apple immediately lowered the price by $200, and everybody just went, just crazy. And Steve Jobs had to apologize and they didn't even give a refund; they gave a store credit, $200 store credit. So that's the story that I'm thinking back to. Now, tell me first, and there are so many different parts of the story. Now, you were one of the people who actually thought that Fred did not. And by the way, Fred is the editor-in-chief of Electric, one of the largest publications in the electric car niche, if you will. He, in my opinion, has been very Tesla friendly. I wouldn't call him a Tesla fanboy, but it's very close to that, right? So this was unusual for him to write an article like this and call him out, and he was definitely unhappy. But tell me why you thought that was out of line.
It didn't strike a chord well with me. I thought it was out of line because this is the way Tesla has done things historically. They're not a car company who does a once-a-year model that you get these features until the year's in, and then now we're going to update a new set of features for the year. They update ongoing, and they've done a number of different updates that I believe were even more significant than the $5,000 difference in whether or not you got performance tires and performance brakes. I mean, just last summer they added a speed upgrade to the standard Model S and Model X that increased your 0 to 60 time by a full second. And owners who took delivery on their car, a number of folks found out the next day that, oh, there's a car out there that have 1 second faster 0 to 60. In my case, I was lucky enough that when I ordered my car, it was a 5.2 second car. They made the improvement, and by the time I took delivery, it was a 4.2 second car, and I'm stoked. Also, 2 weeks after I got my car, smart air suspension became standard. That was a feature I really wanted, I couldn't buy. A month after that, Autopilot 2.5 became standard. Something that I couldn't get access to. But that's the way Tesla has always done it. They are constantly innovating, and I think for some people that model may just not be right.
And I also had the same thing happen to me, because I think 6 months after I got mine, the front end was completely redone. And by the way, guys, these are our cars right behind us. We're both owners. They're just kind of on their own play date over there. All right, so but what do you... I understand as far as bringing new features to the market, but this is a feature that they, had before, and they're going to continuously have, and yet they just kind of, lowered the price, and therefore, literally, somebody could have paid that $5,000 extra like today, and then tomorrow the next person didn't. So how do we separate really innovation because we want them to innovate, and just poor marketing? Because okay, so my opinion on this is like they obviously have a business plan as a company, and this is an auto manufacturer, so they should have a pretty 5 to 10 year plan, including pricing, right? They know which features they're planning. They know what the pricing structure is supposed to be, and this should have been thought through. And just like I said, there's a history of people being unhappy about stuff like that. This could have been predicted, or this would have at least been announced, saying, "Hey guys, the first adapters will have to pay extra $5,000. After that, if you want to wait." So I think what people are upset about is that nobody told them, and it just like happens overnight. And Elon didn't even announce this. Fred had to dig it out from the design studio. Do you see that side of the story, and do you sympathize with that, or do you still think that Tesla should just keep going and you kind of fall into the range of features and pricing that you just kind of happen to fall into?
I think the first part of it comes down to intent when it comes to Tesla. When they initially set that pricing and they had that performance upgrade as a purchasable option, did they intend to make that something free a few months later? Or did they make it free because they looked at it and said, you know what, this is too much, the market's not going to bear this, we need to correct that so we can continue to make enough sales of this car going forward? That's what I think happened. I don't think they set this price arbitrarily knowing that we're going to go 2 months in and then make this included. I don't think they would have done that. Keep the margin if you can, right? Like, this is the first quarter they've been profitable, let's keep it going, and they're going to need a lot more money as they continue to invest in building bigger factories. Now, I certainly empathize with the people who fall really close to those lines where they bought the car and all of a sudden something became standard right after. I personally fell on both sides of that. I got a benefit, and then I also missed out on one by a very short window. But what is Tesla supposed to do, right? Let's say they identified that they were doing too much. Are they supposed to artificially delay making that fix just to not upset people who got their car a month ago? Like, where are you going to draw the line? And if you're a company who's going to do it ongoing and not do it at this big break annual point, you're always going to upset somebody.
Well, there's something. So I guess I understand that point, but I guess this is planning. It's not like they've gone for 2 or 3 years with this feature and realized, okay, now we can. I mean, we're talking about what, 3 months since they announced it. They did the same thing about the price with the base model of the mid-range, right? They announced it at 45,000, and literally a week later it's 46. It does seem like they don't almost want to plan or know what's happening, and this whole supply and demand thing, can lose them some customers. Don't you think they should be a little bit more stable, at least planning out the features and the pricing for them, let's say a year ahead or two?
I think if they did, they would have less situations like this, but I think you highlighting that even proves that they're figuring some of this out as they go, which even more, I think, to me, makes it seem to me that they didn't have the intent of that they were going to get rid of this as a pay-for feature and make it standard. I think you're exactly right. I think they would have less headache if they knew these things out ahead of time, but I think very clearly they're adapting real time and figuring some of these things out as they go.
And I guess, us disagreeing on this kind of shows that, it works for you, and you're happy with it. It doesn't work for me. As you know, I'm considering switching away from Tesla, not because I don't like my car. It's still the best car out there. We agree on that. It's because I don't want to put up with the brand per se, and I'd rather go to a different brand that may not provide me with the best car in the world, but at least I can just count them to be what I expect them to be and not be this weird roller coaster. And I think that's okay too, because I get a lot of slack for saying, well, how dare you, moving away from Tesla. Okay, so that brings me back to Fred, right? He's always been very pro-Tesla, and that's fine. That's that's his publication, really. And all of a sudden, he makes kind of a almost 180 on them. Just speaking of, he's a journalist. Speaking of just journalistic integrity, do you think this was triggered because he finally kind of thought that this was a big deal, or do you think it's because he essentially he himself personally was lost $5,000? And by the way, I've invited Fred many times on the show. I invited him today, so he's more than welcome to come in and have this conversation with me. So it's not like we're talking behind his back. He's welcome to state his opinion on the show. But what do you think what is the line between journalist personal experience and actual fair reporting? And do you think this is what happened?
I don't know Fred personally. I hope he does come on, because I'd love to hear him give his take, and I think it'd be a great avenue for him to share his story with all the bricks that are coming down on him right now. But it really comes down to, when I looked at that piece, it came down to optics. The way that piece came off to me, and I think a lot of other people, was that it was a personal issue.
It was rough.
It was rough. Like, it really came off as, I'm angry about this, and I have a platform to use to really drive that home and get this out there, more than it did a journalistic piece to me. Now, is there an argument to be made that there's some people are going to be left feeling bad and there was a story that needed to be told? Absolutely. Absolutely. But that piece, the optics of that piece, it really came off as a personal issue.
Now, I think it's okay to share personal issues. Like, I've consistently mixed up my personal opinion with the news that I report, and when I'm happy with Tesla personally, I don't mind saying that. I guess here was a contrast, right? He was always being kind of like independent journalist, even though very favorable to Tesla, and some interesting insider news that have been happening almost every day. And then all of a sudden it touched him personally, and he kind of turned on them. Which brings me to another question. Do you think this is what's going to take over and over again, and maybe it will spread to other YouTubers or journalists and so forth, and just customers, where, you know, Tesla will end up hurting their feelings, and people will start turning away from them because of that? Do you think this strategy that you're okay with, I'm not okay with, Fred, I don't know where he's at right now with it, do you think that can actually start turning people away from the brand? And with all of these alternatives coming out, that can really hurt them.
I mean, I think they have to be careful, obviously, when there's big, significant ones like this, that they can really clearly point to a pure dollar amount tied to a feature. And I think it kind of came off even worse because it was such a short amount of time the Performance Model 3 was out, that I think that hurt the optics of it even more. But no, I think one of Tesla's strengths and the customers that they're going to want to reach are going to be people who do like that constant innovation. I think they're going for a market that none of the automakers are serving. If you just look at it from that standpoint, they're doing something that nobody else is doing, which it may certainly cause them to lose some people, but I think it's going to gain them the customers that they're really going after.
You know, and I think that's okay. I don't understand why can we agree on that, like, I'm perfectly okay with you being okay with everything that's going on, while I don't want to put up with it anymore. Why is that not okay?
It may be reflective of the broader divide that we have going on in the national discourse right now, which is you're on this side or that side, you're with us or against us, pick which side you're fighting on, and it's almost like you're not allowed to think for yourself and be in the middle and actually have an opinion that maybe is somewhat favorably, to this thing, but also, like, critical of things and they do something wrong. Tesla is not a perfect company. Quite the opposite. I mean, they've been a startup company really for a long time, and they're now becoming like a profitable, about to be a real serious, stable automaker, but like, they've made tons of mistakes that deserve criticism. It doesn't mean if you like the brand you should stop liking them, but you can be critical of something and still overall support it.
Yeah, and I agree. And the thing is, but that's kind of weird. So I have two kind of thoughts that you just kind of trigger in my head. But one is, I thought we are an electric car community. We already have the other side, which is gas cars, oil industry and so forth. Now we kind of separated, divided ours within. It's either you're with Tesla or you were not with Tesla. Like, I have a Samsung TV, which I absolutely hate. It's a piece of crap. I don't like it. But I have a great microwave, also made by Samsung, and I like it. And when I tell my friends about my crappy TV but a good microwave, nobody says, "Whoa, how dare you talk like this about Samsung? They're all great," right? Why can't we have that in our community?
I think part of it has to do with what's made Tesla be able to be successful is its enormous brand, right? And also the impact that Elon Musk has had in actually inspiring this whole thing to happen. I mean, he's very key to the Tesla, I think, even still being alive, being where it is, and getting to a point of being profitable. So we've got this kind of weird mix of this, like, super futuristic entrepreneur who's game-changing in all these ways, who has his own following, leading a company who's trying to change an entire industry. And also what doesn't help is the auto industry, big oil, the automakers who are slowly, being dragged into making electric vehicles, they're going out of their way to not advertise them against gas cars. They are also pushing the narrative of making it everything against Tesla, instead of saying that it's electric cars versus the world. So any of the other brands that have gotten in, unfortunately, are helped driving this narrative of it's us versus us in this electric car community. Because the makers that are still making gas cars, like, they would be really bad for their business if they convince people to stop buying the majority of the cars that they make.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really regret that our community is divided by this. Basically, I mean, I call them Tesla fanboys, for the lack of a better word, which I think is okay to be one. I just don't think it's okay to sort of bash everybody else who is not necessarily 100% Team Tesla. Like today, I have a couple of Facebook groups that are relatively large Tesla owner groups, and today I had a member post that she's unsubscribing from the Journal because they reported on the FBI probe that they're going after Elon Musk. Now, I think it's unfair that they're going after Elon Musk with that FBI FBI probe. But the Journal was literally just reporting this, and this was news. And she's like, no, I don't want it. So it's almost literally like shooting the messenger, and we keep doing this in our community. How can we maybe one day move forward and say we're all one community, and it's okay to be a Tesla owner and an Audi e-tron owner and a Nissan Leaf owner and still be part of the same family?
I think what you're reflecting is one of those unfortunate things of human nature. We like our tribes. How do we get past that? Education and putting out a good message and trying to be a good example to others that it doesn't have to be that way. I think having discussions like we're having right now, that we can still generally be on the same side of something but disagree about a pretty issue right now that people are really divided on, I think that helps.
Yeah, and to me, the first thing that I thought, because I made my own video about this, right, that I posted before this one, and you made your own, but to me, the better discussion is this discussion. It's not just my opinion, not just your opinion, but a discussion about this, and hopefully some sort of a way for the community to say, hey, it's okay for both sides to actually coexist and to like what they like, right? Because you have what your needs, my needs are different. Like, for example, I like luxury interior, right, and you like the minimalistic high-tech interior, right?
Right. And
it's okay, right?
You said something right there that I think is really important. And I actually may not post my video now that I think about it.
Oh no, what?
No, it's good actually. It's what people need to see is this discussion, because I think the video that I made, maybe the video I haven't seen your video yet, but the video I made, it's definitely going to just fall into another vein of in the echo chamber, right? Like I fall very directly on one side and being like, this is the way Tesla does things, and that's not a big deal. And all the Tesla fans and the folks who follow the My Tesla Adventure community, they're going to mostly agree with that. But I think this discussion is honestly more important than just my take.
Well, no, I still hope you do put your video up, because I think it's just important as me putting my video up, because people do want to hear our opinion, but the conversation, I think this is what should be the product of that, right?
Agreed.
Well, I'm glad we did this. I'm glad, yeah, I dragged you out of bed, literally, for that. I think I dragged myself out of bed for this as well. I mean, obviously to be continued. Obviously this is interesting. Now, actually, one more thing. Do you like the way Elon resolved this? Because, I'm a big Elon critic, especially this year. But I really liked the way he handled that. He actually literally made things right. I wish he would have talked to his marketing department and not done it in the first place. But once he was called out, aggressively so, he said, listen, we'll give you your refund, we'll make things right, or you can still go with a free supercharging if you wish, which was the original deal. Do you like the way he handled that?
I like that he engaged. I like that as the CEO, leader of the company, that he engaged that criticism head on. I personally didn't like the outcome. I don't actually think Tesla needed to do that, but the fact that he took the effort to solve a problem, yeah, it's great. It's great. I think if more companies would do that, they would actually have customers would value their brand better if the CEO of the company actually addressed issues like this and did things like using a social media platform instead of waiting for weeks and months for an official release to say, yep, you know what, we agree it's a problem, we're going to fix it. So overall, I liked how it was handled, but the outcome maybe not.
Do you think moving forward they should have some sort of an announcement schedule where they'll announce that this feature is going to be at this price, but let's say in 3 or 6 months we're planning to either upgrade it, remove it, price it differently? Would you be behind that, or do you think they should just continue going as they go and change prices? I believe all-wheel drive price changed 5 times in 6 months, right? Would you be in favor of an actual schedule and kind of transparency as far as what customers can expect before they order their cars?
I think if you're going to be an innovative company that continues to make improvements throughout the year and ongoing, I don't think you can, because I think the impact it's going to have on sales in the short term. Like, I don't think a business can operate from a sales or revenue standpoint and say, hey, we're going to tell you that you should wait 6 months to buy your car because of this thing that we're planning on doing. I don't think you can do that. I don't think that's realistic for a business to do. I think that'd be great, but exactly what's going to happen. Like, if I know that feature is going to become standard, me and a whole lot of other people are going to wait that many months to buy the car. And now you've got a problem. Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I'm sure we'll talk about stuff like this again. Meanwhile, I'll let my viewers know where they can find you. Obviously, where they can watch your video. My Tesla Adventure on Instagram is what I'm subscribed to, and I think it's pretty cool. But I know you got a bunch of projects going on. Tell my audience where they can get more of you.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you want to follow more of what I'm doing, at My Tesla Adventure on Instagram, also My Tesla Adventure on YouTube. There's a new thing I've started you can find on Instagram called @Adventures of Starman. It's a fun project I've been working on. I actually created a full comic universe for Starman called The Adventures of Starman. So
It is awesome, guys, and you've seen it on my show a few times now too.
and thank you, Alex, for sharing it with the community. I really appreciate it, man.
That's a great project. All right, guys. Well, listen, this conversation doesn't need to end here. I'm looking forward to your opinion. That's why there's a comment section down there. No cursing, okay? Please, this time. But I'm definitely looking forward to your opinion because we will continue talking about this. I hope Fred does come on my show and address this because I think it will be another great conversation. I had Zach and Jesse from Now You Know a while back, and we also had a conversation about, we disagreed a lot about because they are, I think they're proud Tesla fanboys, right? And not in a bad sense of this word. You guys can check out that video on my channel as well. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.